If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Well, top of the morning, this afternoon or evening, wherever you are. It is good to be with you, and welcome to Neely Fuller's Counter-Racist Code Show. I am one of the co-hosts, Mr. Bobby, and with me as usual is Gate, and he is another co-host, and we have a very interesting topic for you today. But before we get started, let me first of all thank you for tuning in and listening. And let me go to the housekeeping situations that I have to do. Now, you can help support and promote the show by hitting the like button and the share button. To watch the show live, go to YouTube at Produce Justice, Facebook and Instagram at Produce Justice Neely Fuller Jr. And you can also watch the show live at producejustice.com. I was speaking with a brother this morning, Brother Lewis Skelton, and I gave him the show that he could watch online live. Now, a replay of the show is available immediately on all the platforms. Now, to get on the show, this is important. To get on the show to share your thoughts, click on the link in the feed and you will be prompted on what to do next. You can also find the instructions on the website at producejustice.com. See, we want you to be a part of this show because you actually help make the show better as we continually work out all the bugs that the usual suspects throw at us all the time, but we're working through that. Now, feel free to read a passage from one of Mr. Fuller's books on air for discussion. Now, to contact us off the air, send your questions or comments to contact@producejustice.com. And lastly, to order the books, all 3 versions, and you can do that all at one time, go to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com, and you can get all the books there. I appreciate all the calls, the emails, the Gmails, and contacts that people have made with me, trying to understand more about the show, and we thank you for that. And like I said, we really want you to get into the show. I just discovered that I can read some of the chats, so I will be intermittently reading some of your chats. And today we have a good subject, and let me introduce the subject maker, subject taker, Gate. Gate, as we are all still learning, how are you this morning?
Mr. Bobby, good morning. Yes, I am learning, as Mr. Fuller so famously used to say, as he would start each show. Mr. Fuller had this show, Blog Talk for the past 5 years, the Neely Fuller Counter-Racist Code Show. I was the producer, and Mr. Bobby was the co-host. And Mr. Fuller would start off each show with, "I'm still learning." Up into his final days on February 1st of this year, Mr. Fuller was still learning. And that should be educational to all of us, to let you know that you as well should continue to learn. Particularly when we talk about the topic we're going to broach today, and that's hypocrisy. Now, if you ever found yourself throwing things at the TV screen, like I have sometimes had to refrain myself from watching the news and listening to the talking heads, and they're just spewing hypocrisy right and left, and it's just getting harder and harder to watch. So you find your blood pressure rising, your eyes turning red, and that's what hypocrisy is. I mean, as I jokingly said, hypocrisy is really the secret sauce of racism. When you get down to it, you cannot maintain this system without the lies and the non-truths. And rank hypocrisy is ruling the day. Just about every time we turn around, whether it's on social media, whether it's on broadcast news, whether it's on whatever you get your information. If you're dealing with people who are upholding racial hierarchies, racism, systemic racism, white supremacy, one of their main tools is hypocrisy. So what we're going to talk about today is, one, how can we combat it? Let me tell you how this thing's going to work. I'm not here to replace Mr. Fuller. Neither is Mr. Bobby, and no one in our listening audience. What we're here to do is to get an understanding, help keep Mr. Fuller's legacy alive, which is worth preserving. But we're not here to just parrot his words. Mr. Fuller was also a big proponent of logic, and he was also fervent about the fact that every victim of white supremacy has a right to speak his piece, give his take or her take on how they feel, on what they feel is the best way to dismantle this system. So we're not, like I said, we are, Mr. Bobby and myself, we're independent thinkers, but we are here on the Neely Fuller Counter Racist Code Show. Many times we'll agree. We're in lockstep. Sometimes we're like, yeah, okay, maybe I can see that. But sometimes we may not agree at all. But Mr. Fuller gave us that right. And so don't beat up on me if I say something, well, that's not what Mr. Fuller said. Yeah, that could be true. But I'm going to give you my take. And what we try to do on everything, we take contemporary topics of the day and we run it through the code. We say, what would the code say? What would the code say? Today we're going to talk about what would the code say about hypocrisy. Man, let me tell you something. I am glad Mr. Fuller tackled this topic because it has been my pet peeve forever, not just when it comes to racism, but in general. I cannot stand double standards from somebody saying one thing and doing the exact opposite, telling me to do one thing while they're not doing it themselves. In other words, do what I say, not what I say do. Do what I say do, not what I say. However it works, they're saying, in other words, they're being hypocritical. So what we're going to do today, we're going to share some of Mr. Fuller's words, and we're going to start out by looking at the code book, with the word guide. And you can get the books by going to producejustice.com. And what we do on the show sometimes, we take words right out of Mr. Fuller's book. Now, Mr. Fuller, he was no fan of hypocrisy. Matter of fact, to him, hypocrisy was analogous to sin. That's pretty deep. He said hypocrisy and sin are one and the same. If you go to page 206 in the word guide, he used the phrase living in sin. He said, avoid using this term in the system of white supremacy unless you apply it mostly to one or more of the following acts. And the first one was being hypocritical. Now he's saying living in sin is the same as being hypocritical. The same as telling lies, willfully acting or deliberately refusing to promote truth. So that's in the word guide. That's how Mr. Fuller is looking at living in sin. He's saying that's the same thing as being hypocritical. Also on page 357 in the code guide, he took the word sin again. He said, use this term to apply as follows. The first thing on his list was hypocrisy. Now you're starting to get an idea how Mr. Fuller felt about hypocrisy. And we're in lockstep when it comes to that. He's saying also sin was pretending to believe one thing while in truth believing another, or pretending to do one thing while in truth saying or doing something different. very different, and or contradictory. And then he said, go look at the word sinner. Man, are you starting to get the feeling that Mr. Fuller was no fan of hypocrisy? Now, in the center, he says, during the existence of white supremacy racism, according to compensatory counter-racist logic, the functional definition of sin, he put this in quotes, is hypocrisy. Mr. Bobby.
He did do that. He did that, and he explained it very well. That's why he wrote the book. He put his thoughts down in the book, a code book, a counter-racist. Notice that word counter-racist, so that we can counter what is being put on us.
Amen.
And while I'm here, just to give some of the people in the chat room, we do encourage you to go to the chat. Anthony Cross, known as AP. AP, come on, call in. We got you. Gates got it set up for you, so you can call in. Radio Remix, we got you. Terrence Martin. Ngozi, I can't really properly pronounce your first name. Sentwaki Ngozi, got that. Sat 7, you're in. Deshaun Ball, Creole Viking. Just to say, we want to hear from you and what you have to say about the subject that is presented before you. Gate?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bobby. Now, Mr. Bobby will be recognizing people in the room, and you can get on the show by hitting that link we just put up on the feed again. We'd like to hear your commentary, your take. What I'm going to do at this point is play a passage from Mr. Fuller. He talks about hypocrisy and truth. As I stated earlier, it's analogous to sin as far as he's concerned. So hang on a second. Let me get a passage up here of Mr. Fuller as he talks about this thing called hypocrisy. So hang on.
Question was asked, Mr. Fuller, and this was the question. This is Mr. Fuller on page 107 of the 2016 revised edition. You say, quote, study everything the white supremacists are forcing you to learn, but invent new ways to use what they force you to learn. You can do this by studying the words they use and by using those same words in a manner that helps best to reveal the hypocrisy, the contradictions, and the confusion by white supremacy, end of quote. So can you explain, Mr. Fuller, or speak to this aspect a bit more for the listening audience, because I think it's a great explanation.
I'm just saying, you study everything that white supremacists do. First of all, seeking the truth. You want to see if they're talking about something that happened or didn't happen. Is it true or false? And if they're making a suggestion, you ask, is it constructive? If they are making a suggestion about anything, that what people should or should not do, and you examine that. You take whatever they give you and examine it before you act on it. That's basically, and if there is an explanation for it, or further explanation, that would be it. And say, now, are they telling me the truth? That's number one.
Yes.
All right. So if you find out they're telling the truth, should it be true? Then you start asking questions of yourself. Should that be true? If it is true, should it be true? And if it should be true, why should it be true? Is it logical and constructive? All right, that would be your reason. That's the reason for finding out of the truth about anything. You want to know how you can use that truth, because truth is supposed to be used. That which is what it is. That which exists, whether it's a physical thing or something you should be thinking about. All right, and you should figure out how it can be used, because everything in the universe has a use. And you want to know, is there any way that I can use this and produce what? 2 words, a constructive result.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it comes from a white person or a black person or any person, even a creature, an animal. Is there anything that I can learn from that bird that just flew over that would produce a constructive result? You might study the bird and you'll find out that the bird does things that are non-constructive, because all creatures do. Because the world is not that type of place that we sometimes fancy it to be. So you have to be able to separate all of the things that all creatures do. Separate them how? Into 2 categories, constructive, non-constructive.
Yes, sir.
And don't let the non-constructive contaminate the few things that people do on this planet that are constructive.
Exactly.
You got to keep building on that which is constructive.
All right. That was Mr. Fuller. As he spoke about hypocrisy, he spoke quite a bit about the truth. Now, some may say the counter to hypocrisy and lies is the truth. But he did say, under the area of education, as Mr. Bobby read during that piece that was on Blog Talk Show a few years ago, is that study the words of the racist. Use their same words in a manner that helps reveal the hypocrisy. And Mr. Fuller went further to say one of the most effective ways of countering racism is to speak the truth and give detailed explanations of how racist practice and racism affect every area of activity. We're seeing a cascading of lies and hypocrisy on the national stage as we speak. It could be in foreign policy. We have a hypocritical foreign policy. When you look at what's happening in Ukraine versus what's happening in Palestine, you're looking at hypocrisy is just on full display. You're looking at policing, hypocrisy, January 6th. Now, that same city where we allowed people to take over the Capitol, basically, you turn around and send the National Guard in now to police the people of that same city. And that happening in quite a few cities across the country. But they're in cities that are mostly run or managed by people of color. We're seeing hypocrisy on full display when it comes to hiring. There's been these talk about DEI and CRT and being woke. But particularly when we talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, we've seen the firing or displacement of 300,000 non-white women. At the same time, we're seeing the most inept administration to ever grace this country. You're talking about hypocrisy. And it goes on and on, whether it's free speech, whether it's, we have one broadcaster comes on the air and says the best way is to rid homelessness, basically to kill the homeless people. Another person comes on the air, criticizes the president, he's kicked off the air. So, as I said in my opening statement, when you find yourself throwing things at the TV screen and you're feeling helpless to do anything about it, that's why you come to this meeting place and we talk about it. Now, we do more than talk on here. Before we get off the air, I'm going to make a call to action. I'm going to give you some ideas, some things to do to help combat some of this rank hypocrisy that we're seeing being flown before our very eyes. Mr. Bobby.
Yes, sir. And I am so happy that you are going to do that because it's in the action that is going on. Let me say this, Sat7, we appreciate all the, that's what me and Mr. Gate call you, Sat7, because right now it's difficult in pronouncing your name, but Sat7, you've been with us for a long time, so we know who you are. Briante Spencer, thank you for listening. Gate, I want to get to a question that Terrence Martin says, and it's a pretty provocative question. He says, does anyone remember Mr. Fuller predicting 7 or so years of very difficult times to come for black people and others in the BIPOC community? Now, I had to look that up, Gabe, because I wasn't sure what that word BIPOC means, but it's an acronym for Black, Indigenous people, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. It is used in the United States to highlight the unique and often distinct experiences of systemic racism and injustice faced by Black and Indigenous communities, while also encompassing all other people of color. The term serves as an umbrella to foster solidarity and advocate for unity, but its use and appropriateness are context dependent and can sometimes be controversial. So as we are in this, facing this hypocrisy, Mr. Fuller gave us a counter-racist action or suggestions as what to do. So you were appropriate in giving at the end, you say, Gate, about some things to consider and then act upon it in this counter-racist war that we are in. Go ahead, Gate.
Well, to answer the follower's question, Mr. Fuller constantly, in more than one occasion, I'll see if we can find those statements where Mr. Fuller did predict that there were going to be some difficult days ahead, and that, but what he would do, he was saying he has left behind a code book. Now, what we have to do, because we're logical people, you can't just sit there and read the code book and say, wow, and expect magic things to happen. He's giving you a code that you have to decipher and apply to add context to what's going on in your daily life. It doesn't matter who's in the White House, doesn't matter where you're working, what business relationships you have, where you go to church. There are certain things that should be applied across the board, and that's why we use code, because sometimes we can get into emotions, we can get into different superficial things. So Mr. Fuller knew these days were going to come, and we're glad that he left behind those 3 code books. He wrote the original book back in 1984, and then he wrote a word guide because he wanted to make sure we're using the right words back in 2010. And then in 2016, he wrote the expanded, revised edition of the book, which you can get at producejustice.com. What we're going to do at this point, and thanks again for all the great comments that are coming in. You guys are really on point today. If you feel like coming on the screen and coming on air, just jump on that link. I'm just keep putting it in the feed. And so what that'll do, that'll put you right up on the screen with Mr. Bobby and me, and you can state your piece, and we'll just have a good old conversation. Let me do this. I'm going to put up run some more video of Mr. Fuller. And just for those who are new to the show, Mr. Fuller had a broadcast on Blog Talk Radio back in 35 years ago. And so you can get the full recordings on producejustice.com. Just go to the homepage and you'll see a link at the top that says past shows. So you can listen to the entire show. The shows were about 2 hours long. Mr. Bobby was co-hosting. I was behind the scenes in the green room or pushing the knobs. So that information is there. So what we do, we take excerpts, we comb through these recordings and contextualize it. In other words, we apply context based on what's happening, what's going on right now. So stay tuned where we're going to put up some more quotes from Mr. Fuller from one of his past shows on Blog Talk. So don't go away, just hang on a second.
What is justice?
How does anyone combat a liar who is great at suppressing the truth, meaning it gets to asking, this has been an ailing question and an issue of contention, especially with you, Mr. Fuller, who say that, and I think a lot of frustration comes from us as black people or anybody listening who want to give white supremacists so much praise, so much power to them being so much smarter than anyone else versus them being the greatest liars and deceptive in terms of what they do.
See, the code is about being razor sharp with your answers and your questions. How do you combat a lie? That's really the question from anybody. With the truth.
Okay.
Just tell the truth.
That is correct, Mr.
No, man, that didn't happen. I was there. That didn't happen. Well, so-and-so said, hey, I was there. There was just 3 people there. I was one of the 3 people.
Mr. Fuller,
I knew what happened.
What's your second question, AP?
The question, the reason why I'm asking that is that we see in the system of racism, white supremacy every day how, and Mr. Fuller's alluded to this, they are great at evading questions. So we see that the truth, that's the absolute answer that I had, okay, with the truth, but they are great at dodging questions. They are great at evading truth being revealed. So my problem with that, Mr. Fuller, I don't want to give white supremacists so much that they're smarter than everybody else when they use lies to try to suppress the truth, and they don't care. The evidence proves, Mr. Fuller, that white supremacists don't care about what others think about what they do.
He's telling the truth. Now, see, I'm answering the question.
Yes.
See, we got to learn how to ask a question. That's another thing. We start getting involved and we deviate from our own question. I've done that. See, that's a mistake.
Mr. Fuller.
When you find out that they are excellent liars, what do you do?
Exactly is the question.
That is the question.
That is the question.
When you find out that they are good at lying, what do you do? That's the question. That's the question. That's the question. We always talk about what do we do, not how we feel. See, once you start talking about how you feel, that's always a mistake. Feelings are all over the place. Feelings change every 2 minutes, if not sooner.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we need a code. Ask a question, get the answer. It will always take everybody right where they need to be, and that's a guarantee. We want guarantees. Our feelings do not guarantee anything. Black people's feelings, oh man, boy, do we have feelings. I don't want to give the white man that. Wait a minute, that's a feeling. Give him what? I don't want to give him credit. Because he lies and well, wait a minute. Are you giving him credit for lying, or is he good at being lying? Or what is the question, and what to do about it once you come to the answer of the question? So we're trying to come to an answer. You become better at telling the truth.
So what is the answer to his second question, Mr. Fuller?
He's a better liar, you become better at telling the truth.
That's the answer.
That's the answer.
Okay.
Now that last statement that Mr. Fuller made was really prophetic. I want you to dwell on that for a minute. He said, if they are better liars, they're not, according to the caller, AP, he was saying that they're not necessarily smarter. They're just better liars. And he was challenging Mr. Fuller to say, look, let's not elevate these folks but let's challenge their lives. Mr. Fuller said the answer to that is to become better at telling the truth. Now that's what I'm going to dwell for a minute. I'm going to put on my professor hat today, my communication hat, and we're going to tackle this topic today. Like I said, we don't just sit up here and read from the book and parrot everything Mr. Fuller says. What I'm going to do, I believe in action. Mr. Fuller himself even said, thought, speak, and action. You think about it, speak about it, but you have at some point you have to do something. Mr. Bobby, you had a comment. Let me get you up here.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, and we do have some comments in the feed, so hang on, we're going to get to you. So let me let's talk about this for a minute. As we heard Mr. Fuller say, okay, so the racists are excellent. They're excellent. I mean, they got it. They have it down. When they dot the I's and cross the T's when it comes to lying and being hypocritical. But Mr. Fuller said the answer to that is the truth. And if they're so great at being liars and hypocritical, you have to get better at telling the truth. I'm going to tell you, give me some tips on how to do that. First of all, you have to have your facts together. This hypothetical, emotional, well, it happened to me, so it must be true. That's not how you combat a lie. You have to do your research. Use credible sources. Cross-reference. And cite statistics. Incarceration rates. Voter suppression. Wealth gaps. Bring some real facts to the table. When you're telling the truth, you have to be a better truth teller. You have to be clear and specific. You can't be ambiguous because they're just going to eat you alive. Give concrete examples, names, dates, times, places. Explain it so that it cannot be misinterpreted or taken out of context. So you just can't say, well, redlining exists. I mean, that's a nice statement to make. But how about saying from 1934 to 1968, it prevented families from accessing homes, causing generational wealth gaps. That's being better at truth telling. Mr. Bobby.
Just said, and I remember, and I call it the Big Five. People think that I am really intelligent, but I'm really not that intelligent. Yeah, I am somewhat, but not really. But I use the Big Five methods that I learned in journalism, and even some lawyers may do this, if you will. But whatever the subject is, you present the subject or the answer as an introduction. Okay, an introduction should have a conclusion at the end, but then you have points A, B, and C, which means that you go in and you explain or describe whatever you need to do, each point that you're making or the ABC. And those may have even sub-points that you may have. Altogether, you have an outline, a 5-point outline. That makes whatever you are saying credible because, as you said, Gay, you have to have sources, resources that are true to the point that you are making. If you incorporate the Big Five in your life, you have your statement, then the middle three, then the conclusion at the end. That makes whatever you're saying not only believable, but it's true because you can back it up. Or as people say today, you got receipts. I got receipts, baby. I keep receipts on everything because I've learned and still learning from Mr. Fuller the counter-racist way to do that. Because this generation now, or by the political atmosphere that's going on, they make a statement, but they have no proof. And then when you ask them to it, as one of the callers or writers said, they change the subject on you. And they do that. And that goes on as being truthful. And it's not. We have to be concise, persistent, as Mr. Fuller said, in this counter-racist activity to understand what they are doing and what they are not doing. Go ahead, Gate.
Mr. Bobby, that is why today this topic has kept me awake nights because, like I said, hypocrisy has been my, what is it called, kryptonite. For it's been dogging me as long as I've been able to understand logic. And so what I'm trying to do is create an environment where we have become better truth tellers. Mr. Fuller spoke in code on that clip that we just read, where one of the callers was challenging him on how to combat the lies, the non-truths, the hypocrisy of the racists. His short, succinct, but very powerful answer was become better truth tellers, because the truth is the antithesis of hypocrisy. So he's saying, now he handed the ball to us. What I'm trying to do is to help show how to do that. Now I don't have all the answers. That's why I invite you to come join and help me out. But what I do want to do when you leave here today is that you have some ideas on how to help Mr. Fuller and what he said about becoming a better truth teller. Mr. Bobby.
Yeah, from the chat room, this is what Still Learning says. He says, I use facts / the big five to craft contract language for a union bargaining team to help me solve problems in the workplace. See, you have to have a model. You have to have a plan. You have to practice putting this plan into motion, not just words, but you have to practice it. In other words, you got to live this thing, because they are deliberately trying to trip you up on every single area, just like this show. The usual suspects are trying to get us messed up every week. Maybe the video is not playing, or I can't be heard, or Gate can't be heard, or all this stuff. We expect this to happen, but Gate has manufactured a plan on how to do that, and you have to admit, each week we're getting better and better. We're not mad, we just understand and implement a counter-racist of strategy to combat what they don't want you to know, which is the truth. Go ahead, Gate.
Exactly right, Mr. Bobby. So what we're doing now, we're telling you, Mr. Fuller said, to combat this hypocrisy, you have to become better at telling the truth. Now, another step I'm going to ask you to do is tell the whole truth. Sometimes selective truth is the same as lying. You cherry picking, or let me just pick this part here and ignore this part over here. That's why sometimes I have a problem with people who are quoting the Bible to me. They cherry pick. They pick out the part that helps forward their narrative. So you have to admit that there are nuances. This black and white, everything is just so clear and plain. That's not the truth. Sometimes you have to admit, okay, I agree with this part and not that part. Okay? And you have to give examples again. Give examples of the truth. Okay, when somebody says, well, didn't civil rights get rid of racism and white supremacy? Well, you admit, yes, civil rights did make some gains, but because we're dealing with a system that is embedded, it's going to take more work. That's dealing with the truth. You can't say, well, it's over, it's done, or it's woe is me, we can't fix it. There are nuances. That's how you become a better truth teller. Let me just keep going here, because we're talking about today how to become a better truth teller, because I need some warriors out here. We need some justice warriors out here to help us dismantle this system. And I'm trying to do, first, we're going to start with Mr. Fuller's code books. He laid down the foundation. What I'm doing, I'm applying some to-dos. I'm making it tangible. Now, this is what I have to throw out here at you. When you're trying to be a truth teller, a better truth teller, you have to be calm. Don't let them get you rattled. And what they're going to do, they're going to even say you're rattled even when you're not rattled, just to get you rattled. Don't let them rattle you. Stay calm. avoid emotions. Use logic rather than emotion. Mr. Fuller chose talking about logic. You get all emotional, you've lost. You're not a better truth teller when you're getting all emotional. And listen actively. Listen to what he said, because listen to what the race is saying. Mr. Fuller said, listen to them and take their own words and use it against them to expose their hypocrisy. You can't do that if you are not listening. Put your emotion aside for a minute, sit back and let them talk, and take those words and twist them around. But at the same time, use stories, analogies, personal accounts for what happened. You have real life stories to help tell this truth. We're talking about today how you can become a better truth teller. We played a video a few moments ago where Mr. Fuller was challenged by a caller. The caller said, well, look, these guys are hitting us with lies left and right. They've gotten really good at this. What Mr. Fuller said was very short and sweet. Become a better truth teller. What are some of the followers saying over there, Mr. Bobby?
By the way, Kahari and Aharo by Terrence Martin asked me to say hello as he was speaking to him in the evening. Going back to what you say and what does the caller say, Still Learning says this. One statement, this is Still Learning, one statement that supports the existence of racism and white supremacy is, quote, it is what it is, end of quote. Please practice eliminating this statement from what you say. It means there's nothing I can do. So, no.
What he's saying, Mr. Bobby? What he's saying? Hold on, go ahead, Mr. Bobby.
No, you go ahead and then I'll come right back in.
Well, but Still Learning is saying, and I agree, that to say that, well, it is what it is, that's like throwing up your hands. Well, it is what it is. I'm telling you today, it is what it is right now, but it's not always going to be that way. I would accept it is what it is if you're talking about today. It is what it is at this particular moment in time. But I reject the premise that that's the way it's always going to be. That's why today we're tackling one of the secret sauces of hypocrisy. Everything that's successful has this secret sauce. I think people used to use that term when they talk about the Big Mac. And they got that secret sauce that makes it work, that nobody else can make it like this. Well, the racists have a secret sauce for racism and white supremacy, and it's hypocrisy. They use it masterfully. And what we're trying to do today is to say, first of all, we see you. You're not fooling anybody. We know what you're up to. I gave some vivid examples of that's happening in real time as we speak, in the media, in policing, in employment. Just go back through the 9 areas of activity and you can find hypocrisy in every single area. Mr. Fuller said to combat it, you have to become better at telling the truth. And that's what we're trying to do right here today, is to how do we become better truth tellers to help combat some of this hypocrisy? Mr. Bobby.
Yeah. And you may have heard, you and I are old school, so we heard this before. But to the newer generation or the generation after us, the 3 C's: stay cool, calm, and collected.
Amen.
Remember when Mr. Fuller said that he was speaking and these 2 guys came in, I think the 2 white guys came in and came down to the front and was saying all different kind of things. What did Mr. Fuller do? He was cool. He was calm. He was collected and let them speak. And what did he say that they did? They ran out. See, they really didn't want to hear. And going back to a statement you made earlier about the truth, understand this. When they start to omit things, listen, the old elder told me that a half-truth is still a whole lie. And that reminds me of what they did with Ronald Reagan. Yeah, I dropped the name. Having plausible deniability. Come on, man. Plausible. See, they have incorporated lies into everything. Everything. One of the things that they did and I'm not going to call his name, but everybody know who we're talking about. I think it was Robert E. Lee. They're going to bring him back up again. But if you ever realize what this man did in his life and they're going to resurrect him again, you know what you're up against. But since Fuller has again to teach us about how to act counteractively, you don't get mad at that. What you do is you expose the truth. We know it's a lie. Some of the people that haven't been born or don't really study history, they don't know. But you're not going to get anywhere by arguing or talking out louder than they are, because they are designed, they're proficient in getting us off the point to where we fight each other on that kind of stuff. No, stay united. How about that? Independent.
Amen. That's right.
There you go.
Well, Mr. Bobby, you made a good point. Now, we're giving a master clinic today on how to combat hypocrisy and lies. And Mr. Fuller, he gave us a mandate, as one of the callers that called into the show a few years ago. And he said, become a better truth teller. Now, I took that from Mr. Fuller to be a call to action. Okay? I'm picking up that mantle today. Now, this is one, Mr. Bobby, I'm sure many people can relate to. And I'm going to ask you to use this, put this in your toolbox as you become a better truth teller. Anticipate the lies and misinformation. I watch some of these shows sometimes on air, and I'm sitting there saying, you didn't know that was coming? Don't be sitting there blindsided. They're saying the same thing over and over again. They're repeating the same lies. They may dress it up, put it in a different suit, a different shirt, different tie, different dress, warm it up, rebake it. You know it's coming. That's why I'm always surprised when some of these folks are caught flat-footed. Know the common lies and have a response. Now, you might put a star beside this one. Know the common lies. Know the common misinformation and have your response ready. Okay? They're going to say things like, well, we're in a colorblind society. Let's have these race neutral policies. What about Oprah and Barack Obama? There's evidence that there's no more racism. And you come back and say, look, you're confusing the exceptions with the norm and not taking into consideration that systemic barriers are about unequal opportunities and not absolute impossibilities. So have yourself a comeback for these common lies and misconceptions and have some evidence-based responses and be consistent. You can repeat your talking points over and over again, apply them to different situations, but get it down. Get it down. Get your truth down to combat these common lies and misconceptions that's going to be coming to you. And once you sit down, I want you to do this for a minute. This is your homework. Go look at a typical racist on air or online and notice they use the same lies. They use the same misconceptions because they're speaking in code. Today, we're giving you code to combat it. Mr. Bobby.
Remind me, and a special shout out to Breeze Connections LLC. He says, educated fools from educated schools. One of the things that I want to harp on a little bit about staying cool, calm, and collected. Many of our listeners, Gate, and you were behind the scenes when this happened, when somebody called in and referred to us as MFs. We had 2 shows on that. And a private conversation was that, well, maybe we oughtn't let this person come on anymore. But Mr. Fuller said no. He confronted it and said, no, let her speak. Now, if that had been me at first, before I still learned, I would have said something like this. Well, was you peeking? That wasn't what your mother said last night. But counter-racist me said, no, don't do that. You have to stay cool, calm, and collected. In other words, to be codified, to understand how we are being attacked on every side and in every way and in every area, in the 9 specific areas of people activity, as Fuller has pointed out tremendously. Somebody tried to add health to it. They're all affected by health, because if that bad boy goes out, oh man, you in trouble. But I'm glad that you have exposed this and not just talked about it, but giving tools that we can actually put in place and use rather than becoming reactionary. Don't do that. No, don't do that. We don't need to do that. We need to stay codified, as Nicolette says, following the code, and as Still Learning has pointed out, and as Sat Seven's pointed out, understanding the warfare that we are in. Go ahead, Gate.
Mr. Bobby, you're right again. So what we're doing this morning is that we're looking at the what I call the secret sauce of racism. What upholds, what gives it foundation, what makes it so persistent and formidable is hypocrisy. Go turn on any of these shows today. And when you have a racist talking head sitting there, you would notice they have a whole bag of hypocrisy sitting there next to them, and they're feeding off it during the entire show. You're looking at government agencies. You're looking at business executives. In other words, I'm going to say go look at the 9 areas of activity. Mr. Fuller made it easy for us. And you can go through each one, and without exception, if you apply it to today's modern what's going on, you will see hypocrisy occurring in living color. Now, what you want to do is, as we're talking today about how to become better truth tellers. That was a mandate. That was a call to action by Mr. Fuller. I'm just putting a little more meat on the bone. Be transparent. Okay? Be transparent. Make your statements verifiable and hard to dismiss. Because that's another weapon of the white supremacists. They will sit there and question you. That's one of their comebacks. You ever look at some of these guys, you watch some of these talking head shows, they have a code. And if you just, that's why Mr. Fuller said, study them. Don't be caught flat-footed, not knowing what they're going to do. They've laid it out there for you to see. So be transparent and explain your reasoning and how you came to that conclusion. And encourage critical thinking. Explore others to go do their own fact checking. Don't try to hide it, because information is too easy to find nowadays. And that's a double-edged sword. That means people can use this available information to fact check you, but at the same time, you can use this information to fact check them. That's why you have to be on code and be transparent. And also, sometimes truth telling can be uncomfortable. Sometimes it makes you hostile, reactive. But lies flourish when people fear confrontation. Once again, that's a double-edged sword. If you're walking around saying, I'm afraid to say this because somebody's going to fact check me or it's going to cause confrontation, you're not ready for the truth. So you have to lead by example. Be credible. And you are going to be more credible when your words and your actions are aligned. Mr. Bobby.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that reminds me of Jasmine Crockett. I've been studying her lately.
Yes.
And like you said, they come at her in all kind of ways. I mean, just all kind of ways. But as you just stated, they don't like to be confronted or be fact-checked. And she has fact-checked them on everything. They come again, and you think they got her, and she just, okay. She sat there, okay. And then she said, well, wait a minute. What about when you right here got the dates and even the times, whatever they said that she did, she's got them. She's cool. I mean, she's cool, calm, collected. She has everything. And if you ask her, she could give you the 5 points, in an essay or a thesis statement, man. She corrects that stuff, and they don't like it. So what do? They don't answer the question or change to a different question. As that guy that's the head of the FBI, whatever his name is, You know, I watched that, man. And I shook my head. And if you don't understand what they do rather than get mad, then you can become gullible to the foolishness or the fascism or whatever you call it that's going on right now. Fact check their stuff. Expect them to come against you or become against us in everything. When we get off the air, I'm expecting it. Even on the air, I'm expecting it.
Okay. You have to be ready. And that's what I'm doing today. We're talking about how to become better truth tellers while we're under this assault of hypocrisy, non-truths, lies, and as Mr. Fuller calls hypocrisy a sin. He said it's the same, it's analogous to sin. Now, I'm gonna wrap this up, but I'm gonna give you some final thoughts on how to become a better truth teller. And if you listen to some of the things I've said today, and you look at some of the best debaters, some of the people who debate the best, whether it's Jasmine Crockett, some of the people on some of the talking head shows, they're using these tactics. And I'm just sharing the code with you. Now, use repetition. Now, you might not even realize it sometimes, but all of the people that are great debaters or who are combating or in these talking points and talking heads, they use repetition. I'm gonna throw in a little secret. Now, sometimes you don't have to show your entire hand in your opening statement. I like to use this. You bait them. You throw out a fact, one of your talking points, and they think they got you. But what they don't realize, you have a comeback that's gonna knock them out of the park. That's gonna knock it out the park. And you're gonna use some of your repetition, some of your famous, what we call your greatest hits. Just keep hitting them with it. Boom, 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 boom. Like Mr. Fuller gave us some of these great quotes, what justice is and what white supremacy is. If you don't understand it, what it is, how it works, everything you thought you understood is only confuse you. Somebody challenge you on it, have your facts ready. Come back, and you don't have to give all of your details on the first round. Just bait them to challenge you. That's when you come back with the facts, the examples, the analogies. Now you can call checkmate. And do this on the phone. Practice it, reflect, and get better. The more you do this, the better you're going to become. Because some of you right now, you're on your job. Some of you are on a contract. Some of you are in relationships with friends. You're part of a club or a group, and you're being challenged on a day-to-day basis. They're using hypocrisy. It's blatant and in your face, but you can't combat it because you are not prepared. So what you do, like I used the example in the beginning, you're throwing your shoes at the TV screen. Your blood pressure is going up. That's not the answer. The answer is to be calm, cool, collected, like Mr. Bible said, and go back and get yourself some facts, get you a strategy on how to become a better truth teller. And that's been the theme of this show today. Hypocrisy is real. It's a major tool in the arsenal of the racists. They use it with precision. But what we don't have to do is sit back and throw things at the TV screen. What we're going to have to do, one, we can get the code books that Mr. Fuller wrote, 3 code books, and do your own research and have a comeback so that you can become a better truth teller and learn from every encounter that you have as you go out here in this truth telling and combating this hypocrisy, lies, and untruth. Mr. Bobby.
Yeah, before we wrap it up, you know what I always say when we wrap it up, but on that MF comment that I made, I never considered this, but Sent Walking Ngozi said, Mr. Bobby, they was speaking. Okay, maybe so. But anyway, my final thought is I usually say at the end of the show, producejustice.com.
All right. We're going to wrap it up. I want to thank you again. This show is going to be available on all of the platforms. You can go to producejustice.com. You can get it there. That's particularly helpful for people who are not engaged in social media. It's also available on YouTube, where we have all of the shows, and we also have it on Facebook. And today we also have, the show is just all over the place. So what you want to do is share this information, make sure this information is available to those who need it. And for those who are actually going out here after this show, you're going to find yourself in some of these conversations, then go back and use this show as a reference, because what we do, we need some truth tellers. We need more truth tellers, but don't go out here and make a mess of it. What we want you to do, as Mr. Fuller said, become a better truth teller. And we'll see you next week.
If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time.